The following is an Operation Podcast production.
Creating a culture of love.
Normalizing that process and creating support around that process and getting people to get curious around it versus judgmental with themselves.
And on the other side of it, though, like these perfect aesthetically fit people, men, women, the whole thing that seems unattainable, you could face tune a photo and a video, and you're looking and seeing, why is it curved? Why is it taken and why is it not? And then they're selling affiliate commission products.
But there's a difference between your body getting unhealthy and you staying there to make other people happy.
Yeah, because even if, let's say we train the mental fortitude, those conversations, remove the limiting beliefs and all that, we still have other addictions. And some of this food is made to be addictive. Jen Widerstrom, thank you for coming and welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
We're in Live Through Love. This is where all the magic happens.
I'm seeing it. It was actually fun to walk in here and actually see the paint on the walls. I'm like, oh, you really come here and do it in here.
Yeah, you see what's behind the curtain.
Oh, this is great.
That only comes up for you.
Yeah,
Make sure
you.
you look good. The floor.
It's fun to be here, though. Mm-hmm. Thank you. There's these days everybody's got a podcast, and as much as I love talking, there are very few that I get excited to be on, and I'm really excited to be on yours.
Yes, we made the
cut. You're in. Yeah. Speaking of cut, thanks for my sweatshirt.
Yeah.
It just needed to be sleeveless.
Why would you want to hide the guns?
Listen, I get these direct from my mom's side, and so this is from my mom, really.
Mm-hmm.
Love you, Mom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's where the calves come from over here, too, yeah.
Oh, your mom's calves?
Mm-hmm.
See, it's so funny. I'm my mom's twin. After this, I'll show you a picture of my parents. I have my dad's calves and eyelashes, and everything else is Lynn. Everything else is my mom. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, it's mom's hair. I look like my dad. The bodies are kind of the mixture of the two.
How many kids in your family?
I have a brother, 2 years younger, and then my dad has a daughter from a previous.
So an older sister, younger brother.
Yeah.
Okay, but you were the mix. So it's funny. My sister's dad, I'm mom, my brother, mix. Someone that always gets a mix. So you're the mix in your family.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. But anyway. So tell me about you. Where can people see you? They can see you. They've seen you on Biggest Loser, maybe on American Gladiator, maybe on a couple other things. You're in the fitness and wellness space.
Yeah.
Like if they Google you, they'll see a lot of powerful photos.
I mean, yes. It's funny. I'm a personal trainer by trade. I went to University of Kansas, Rock Chalk, for a degree in sports administration. And I'd like to see myself as like one small piece of a greater collective of like wellness professionals. Mm-hmm. I've happened to have a big spotlight put on my career, which has been as fun as it has been a responsibility. Because like my passion is like public health, my passion is women's health. And so where the wellness industry has started to steer and almost spiral, I guess I would say, has been tough, but makes it more important than ever for wellness professionals and peers to come together and really, celebrate that I've done TV and I've gotten to do other really cool things, but really still, like, I'm still training clients. I'm still doing one-on-one training. It's still my heart. It's still my passion. And I think the most work I accomplish is in those relationships, because it is truly that, like, being a pebble in someone's pond every day. The work we do doesn't stay with me and them. It goes and goes and goes. So it's cool to have the respect and the spotlight, but the work I don't think is ever done.
No.
And I think that's part of what I love the most about my job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Humans are meant to move. So you'll always be a facet of that.
Yeah. I mean, if I can keep them moving, that's the thing. There's so much shame bound to the way people make their choices, whether they move, like, in judgment, and that's really what I try to get to the bottom of. I think what I tend to love to do is help people get started, whether it was for the first time or get started again. That's something that I think we all can relate to. How many times you've started and stopped on something, and normalizing that process and creating support around that process and getting people to get curious around it versus judgmental with themselves. Because it's like, you're like, oh, movement, everyone needs to move. But why is this country sick, fat, and dying when we have more support, more coaching, more evidence of health successes than ever, and we're worse than ever? So that's where the behavior change, when you look in between what's happening and what's not happening, that's the experience I try to live within.
No, and that's the $1 million question, right? Our phone, we can look up anything. We know what's right, right? We say, I should go do this, but I'm not going to do it. And we could chalk it up to a whole bunch of things, right? Is it laziness? Is it analysis paralysis? We have too many options. I don't know what to choose, so I'm not going to do anything right now, right? CrossFit, yoga, meditate, cold
That's just an
plunge.
excuse, though.
Exactly. These are all excuses. And I think it all comes down to mental health, but also then, do you love yourself enough to start putting yourself first? And most people, because I ask a question, I ask this in my speeches, is name all the things that you love.
Yeah.
What are the first 3 things that come to mind? What do they say? Family, dog, house, BMW. I'm like, okay, but why aren't you on your list? And they're like, oh.
They don't believe they're lovable. They don't believe they're worthy. And do you want to know why? This is fun. What makes you fall in love with yourself? What makes you be able to say that as your answer?
That's a good question. Well, the way I would answer it is, how many times did I judge myself, berate myself, have I am statements that weren't empowering, and listened to it and believed it, and then some of my results were like,
okay.
But then maybe someone else is like, you're not that. Why are you talking to yourself that way? It takes a lot of work, though.
Okay, this is fun. So what makes you believe those negative statements? I'm totally leading the witness here, but this is fun.
Yeah, the way you're supposed to. What makes me believe them?
What makes you believe those negative statements?
Because whatever I say I am eventually is going to become true. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if I say I'm fat, one day I'm going to be fat. Maybe I'm not obese, but there's something somewhere, because we're going to make it real. It's manifestation. It's whatever energy you're putting out in the world.
It's manifestation, yes, but also, so there is an energetic side of this that is undeniable, okay? The other side is very tactical, reasonable behavior around keeping your word to yourself.
Yeah.
Keeping your promise.
That's huge.
So if I tell myself I'm going to the gym, or I'm going to do, I don't care, I'm going to do 1 minute of cardio today, 1 minute of lifting, whatever, and I don't do it, that is the shame that seeps in, because then you don't believe in your word, and therefore you don't believe in your strength, and you don't have any pride, and you don't believe you're worthy because you've proven yourself day every day that you're not. My really good friend Chris Powell, he was on a show that basically competed with ours on Biggest Loser. He did, it was like a transformation makeover. Oh God, what was it? It was the other big weight loss transformation show. He was on it, and then I was on Loser. And he and I are so aligned on this. He's like, if you can get to the root of the promise that you broke to yourself, that's where you see people break down. And he told me this story recently. It was one of his greatest accomplishments with the client, where, and this story is what made me want to be a trainer. Like watching Chris. I remember my parents had the Chicago Tribune. We're like, look at this Chris guy. Look what he did with this person in Arizona. Yeah, extreme weight loss. Thank you. And so he helped this man lose hundreds of pounds. He was in this great place in his life, got in a relationship, actually started living with Chris, was all these things, everything's great. And then, and a big part of what this person's addiction was soda. And Chris was like, here's your limit with your soda. It's gotta be diet, make it one big gulp in your day. You have to have very livable balance and like executing behavior things in your day. And one day, he just, instead of going diet, he went regular Coke. And the guy's like, that was it. And he went back up over 700 pounds. Oof. And he was telling me the story, and somebody chimed in, it's all that sugar. That's what made him fat. No. Because you have to do this how many times over and over again to gain hundreds of pounds back over years. When he broke that promise, he created doubt. He created shame for himself, and that's where it is. And so people are like, I'm lazy, I'm not worthy, I don't know how. You're either going to show yourself evidence of all the great things you can do or evidence of the other.
Yeah.
And that's where people get stuck. And in my experience, there's a component of where the wellness and fitness industry is misleading, manipulative. They're selling you bullshit. They want you to buy in. There are experts on Instagram that will tell you things just for extreme reactions, for taps, for likes, or they're just chicks showing their body. And because their body shape is popular right now, it makes them an expert. This is ridiculous.
But
okay?
let's add to that, because the truth is, how often are we lying to ourselves?
That's the other side of it.
Right.
They want to stay stuck.
But what you just said, I want to add one thing.
Yeah.
And I want us to
Do
table
it.
that, but go back here.
Go.
This whole body positive thing, there's one aspect of like, look, I understand body positivity, but if you're a 300-pound woman on the cover of something,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that is not healthy.
Correct.
I love that you are body positive about it. So
By the way,
the
she
mental
knows
health
that too.
side. And on the other side of it, though, like these perfect, aesthetically fit people, men, women, the whole thing that seems unattainable, you could Facetune a photo and a video, and you're looking and seeing, why is it curved? Why is it taken? And why is it not? And then they're selling affiliate commission products. So
Yes.
that's the cycle. It's like, I'm getting paid for X or for Y, and then they don't care what I do to sell the product, and they're making sales, all the supplements. It doesn't even matter who it is. And you can see that they literally shrunk their waist, inflated their boobs, increased their calves, made their arms bigger. Like, this is men and women. And then we sit here and look at that like, I'm never going to look like that. So that we're spiraling back into these, I am not, it's not me, it is not possible. So then I'm not going to, you start breaking those. And now that's this whole.
Well, and that's where that self-love and body positivity gets tricky because, again, I really, as a coach, like I hang this carrot of like, we're going to lose weight, we're going to get ready for your wedding, we're going to do these things, but always underlying our psychological, it's the psychological warfare that you have with yourself and really getting baseline to, it's not a big deal that you think that way. We are, as humans, we measure, we compare. It's like, oh my God, it's warmer outside today than it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Or if I see your son, I'm like, oh my God, he's taller than the last time I saw him. He's growing so fast. We notice differences. So of course I'm going to notice differences in photos and compare them to myself because that's the body I see every day. So I think it's natural to compare. I think what we're getting off track is that we're making that the standard.
Yes.
And I feel bad. That's why I say when the bodies that are popular right now, I happen to be highly educated. I'm pursuing a higher education degree in women's physiology and health. But also a reason I get a lot of attention is because my body is cool right now. I've looked like this forever. I've been made fun of for my body more of my life than I have not. But right now it's in. So it's like, okay. Like, what about, like, look at, like,
I'm hot right now.
yeah, totally. I'm like, ride the train, Jen. Like, because, in another year, I won't be fat enough to have an opinion on bodies.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? So it's a funny thing. And I think that when you see, look at the backlash Adele got. She just was like, I'm done. I'm getting healthier. Rebel Wilson, I'm done. I'm getting healthier. They figured out their promise. They figured out their self-love. They figured out their pain and they wanted to pursue working through it, not around it with food or stress or drinking or people or sex or whatever. Like, that takes courage. And we're going to put them down because they did the hard work. They're just a mirror for the people that aren't.
Exactly. And then the people putting them down are because they might have said they're my heroes because they look like me. And now I can rationalize, well, then I can be successful too. But then someone decides to make a change. And now they're like, they're no longer, who am I? Wait a minute.
Yeah. Wait, you have to be exactly as you are so I can stay as I am.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a second. And that's why, I don't know Lizzo personally, and I'm desperate just to like call her and be like, are you okay? How is this pressure going? God forbid she gets healthier. And because she represents, she actually, didn't her television series win not Oscar, what's the television award? Emmy, thank you. an Emmy, and she's like, and you represented like a very unique like crowd of women. Like, no, we don't all look the same. We don't have the same size. I know women at their absolute healthiest weight, banging body, are over 200 pounds. I happen to be 145. This works for me, that works for them. But there's a difference between your body getting unhealthy and you staying there to make other people happy. And so it's a tricky time, and it's hard to, because of where I think people are feeling a lot of pain right now. They're taking it out on people that stand up for what they want to say. And that's why, I mean, your message of love is so important right now, because like, I think that's the only thing that's not off limits is talking about this.
Yeah.
But it's been hard to watch, and especially being in the fitness world. And like, I feel lucky. I mean, I'm in my 40s now, so being connected to wellness professionals for years now, and you see new up and comers, and I try to like meet them and get to know them and be a resource. But like, everyone's kind of a little stumped, like how do we get out of this? How do we, and I don't necessarily have all the answers, but I know that it is something that's on everyone's hearts right now.
Yeah, because even if, let's say, we train the mental fortitude, those conversations, remove the limiting beliefs and all that, we still have other addictions. And some of this food is made to be addictive, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't eat potato chips, not because I hate them. It's just because if I eat one, I'm going to eat the whole bag.
Yeah.
And I'd rather go get like real French fries or something, so I don't eat a lot of processed things.
Sure.
But it's made, my body doesn't want it. My tongue wants it. So it's like, I want more of that. Give me more of that.
They spend millions of dollars on the sound it makes, the audio. Not even the taste.
The crunch.
You bet. So it's like, I don't know. It's designed that way, but I mean, listen, I still eat Cheetos. I don't know. I have found my way through it, but real transformation with food took 3 years and took me understanding why I was going through it. So I mean, this is a rabbit hole, but I don't want anyone listening to think that to love yourself you have to have a perfect diet. You've got to do CrossFit like Ruben every day, and you've got to. It's just more finding a system that works for you, that helps you get to know yourself. Like, one thing I started doing about a year ago was just a little journaling every day. And it feels a little sticky in the beginning because you're like, okay, dear diary, it was cold today. My mom's annoying me, but what you start to get is this inner monologue that comes through. And I find myself laughing. I find myself like, I wrote like a poem about a tree the other day, and I was like, you know what? I am funny and I write poetry. And I didn't know that about myself. Yeah. Because I've never created space for it. I've never spent time with me the way other people get to spend time with me. So it's a super reflective experience. And I even do it with people in my private group that I work with, because they're just like, the journaling is a game changer, just to sit with your thoughts. And I think when people experience themselves, they have evidence of something that's worth fighting for and something that's worth loving.
Yeah. No, that's a fact. And it takes work, and to break through your own surface. Like, imagine you write your journal and it's all surface level. No one's looking in this thing, right?
Nope.
And you're like, you can't even get deep with yourself? That's a problem, right? And once you can start breaking through that. But a lot of this is why I think health and wellness is such a loaded space. I actually have a exercise science degree. I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon, so I'm a kinesiology
you started
major.
And you went,
Yeah, I took a lot of detours. So I've studied a lot of this stuff throughout my whole career, and it's always been a piece of what I do. But some of the things I always say is the six-pack is a byproduct. If I trained for the six-pack, for sure I'd be roiding up and eating weird boiled chicken all day and like training very specifically to have a thing. But my goal is to train is I want to play with my grandkids.
Yeah.
I want to live to 125. I want to survive the zombie apocalypse if it actually happens.
100%.
When I'm wealthy, I want to run up the pyramids with my kids also. Because I've seen really rich people that can barely make it to the pool lounge because they're unhealthy. Now, everything that I have fitness-wise after the fact is all a byproduct. And I love being strong and running fast. But those are my whys. And I think if we start figuring out what our whys are, then a lot of the other stuff doesn't matter. Like, why do we eat? Why do we train? Why do we dig in?
It's interesting though, because you're talking about two very different outcomes. And it's funny how the body is so deeply tied now to worth. And I think that's where we've gotten off track in the 20th century. When I'm single, I'm way harder on myself and my body. You know, I'm like, I got to get this shit tight. I got to display, you know what I mean? I got to be ready, because if I don't have a tight enough blank, this guy won't want to date me. And it's like,
That's performance now.
no, that's like, that should actually have nothing to do with why a man wants to be in my life. But that's my A to B. And then I go, okay, let's erase that line and go AC, right? Like, so it's kind of ingrained in us that this is our value, especially as women. We have that. I mean, that is, you know, that has culturally been a motivating factor in the way magazines have been sold, makeup has been sold, shampoo is sold. There's a marketing agenda telling us all the time how we need to look so blank, blank, blank. So it's interesting. Your outcomes have to do with your like abs. You know, abs are always for somebody else. I don't need abs, but I heard everyone likes them, so I'm going to get them, right? But then now doing it to live long with your kids, that's different. But how come there's so many parents out there in their 20s and 30s that aren't working out? That would suggest that they don't want to live long with their kids, and that's not the case. But it's funny how we forget. It's funny how quickly we adapt to not having. I had a contestant on The Biggest Loser. I'll never forget, she went home, and it was during our season, and she had gotten on the playground with her son, who was 2 at the time, and she just sent me a picture of them on the little like wood chip area. She's like, this is the first time in his life, or maybe he was 4 at the time, but like in 2 years since he was going there, that she could go on the playground with him. And she goes, and just was bawling, like, I've missed out on this. And it hit her, like, because she didn't know what she was missing. But here's what's wild. The weight went up, and she was willing to walk away from it, because she wasn't dealing with what was really going on. And ultimately, now she knows what she's missing, and so the shame pushes her further into that direction. So it is something you brought up. I don't even know if we were recording or not, about mental health. The component of your mental health, your social health, your physical health, they all have such an important, they're such important anchors in how you function collectively. And I think people get stuck when they only focus on one. And they also don't, I think, spend enough time looking at social health, whether that means your immediate circle. So if you and your partner are not on the same page, it's going to be a hard road. If you and your immediate family are not on the same page, they will sabotage you. They will ostracize you. They will make fun of you. The amount of times I have people write to me in our group that our community is all I have. It's the only support I have, because they're trying to eat healthier at home.
Yeah, and they're getting judged for it and shamed for it.
Because they feel that it's spotlighting how they're not doing well. And then you got to look at your work circle, then you're out, it all goes in circles. And if we're not addressing that outward growing spiral of that social health and influence, I don't care how hard you try, how motivated you are, it's going to be hard to conquer that if you don't have a quality social health. And it's who doesn't want to feel a part of something? There's an insane statistic about loneliness, and there was this, is it at Harvard? They've been doing like an 80-year-long study about the importance of like community and how like loneliness has the same effects as like drugs and cigarette use. The statistic, though, was through this research is if you live in a polluted area, you have a 5% chance of dying sooner. If you are obese, 20% chance of dying sooner. If you have alcohol on a regular basis, 25%. If you are lonely, guess the number.
50.
You were close. 40%, just over 40% chance of dying sooner from loneliness. Because now I don't have
dying, or does any suicide plan into that, or
death? So I would say yeah. Right? So when you don't feel like there's purpose, and that's why I sometimes I wish I was a cave woman, because man, that's simple. I know, okay, I got to go hunt this thing. I bring it home. You're going to skin it. You're going to get the water going. We don't have hot water unless he's chopping wood. All right. If I don't show up that day, we don't eat. Like, there is a pride and purpose in being in part of that circle like that.
The collective works as a whole unit.
It has to. And we're missing that now. And the reason is, I think, is technology. We've gotten spaced out because we can. It also, the godsend of technology is it connects us, like this podcast. People will get to hear it and meet pieces of our personalities because it's going to be able to be strung out there. But if you can start to create these units that do really well in your circles, well, then you're onto something. But this is what goes in hand with loneliness. You want to belong in your family. And what happens when you're making decisions that make them upset with you? You're like, I don't want to rock the boat. I just want to stay in this. And most people stay dark, stay down, stay depressed, and don't fight for what they want because they'd rather be a part of the community. And honestly, like that's a tough place to be. When I started eating healthier, I'll never forget. I lived in LA for a short while, and I was like trying to figure out the food thing. I've rested on a lot of DNA and sports growing up with food, and then you get out of college sports and you're eating. I would eat 2 Chipotle burritos in one sitting. Like
Baja Fresh. And
I can handle myself. Okay. But I would instead of doing 3-a-day workouts and, the kind of way we were training, I was doing 0 a day. Cause I'm like, I'm hungover from last night. I'll do it again tomorrow, and I started gaining weight. I'm like, I got to figure this out. Like, I wouldn't grab a couple cookies. I would eat 2 sleeves of them.
Yeah, that's just how post-college life is real. And our energy output and caloric expenditure.
But I remember I was like, I got to figure this out. And I started, and because I'd done gladiators, but I kind of got healthy in a thin and an unhealthy way, and was like on this verge of bulimia because I was like, oh, if I could just throw up, that might work. And then I remember I had this moment standing over the toilet thinking, if I start this, my brain, I think, won't let me out of here. I don't know. And I took a step back, and that was my promise that I've kept. That has 20 years, later really been the deal breaker for me that has put me on a healthier path. But getting back to it, I remember coming back to Chicago and we went to this restaurant and, it's got like the buttery garlic bread and it's got other things. And so I was like,
I knew that deep dish pizza.
Oh my God. So I was like, I know I'm going to have martinis with my family because you have to have at least 2 to 3. It's I don't know what's wrong with us, but that's how we do it. And then all this bread. So at dinner, I was like, okay, you're having fun there. You got to get fish. I got to get something green on your plate. And my mom was like, Jennifer's not eating. What's wrong?
Yeah.
Why aren't you eating? I'm like, what are you talking about? I had 3 of the rolls. I'm on my second martini. I'm getting fish and broccoli because this was my promise for me. And it was like a blow up because I was getting fish for dinner.
Chicken parm with extra pastas.
Right. She's like, what? Yeah. And so what I was made fun of for or pushed away for, now it's completely reversed. And like my mom's doing CrossFit 3 times a week and she's like counting her macros and you know what I mean? And my dad, they got an exercise bike in the family room. So they're watching old MacGyver and doing it. And what was cool is like, they really want to go on a European trip next year and they're both in their mid to late 70s. And I was like, guys, that's our Super Bowl. Training starts now. Yeah. Get your protein up. But they're in, and what I have to say is accepted, but it took them time. They finally realized that it wasn't me telling them what to do, but I had to do me, and it was hard to hold out. And the only reason I think I did is because I lived in LA. I had this space. I mean, and that's what,
Because you're out of sight, out of mind.
And I got to build my own life. I was the apple that fell from the tree and kept rolling. And a lot of people don't have that opportunity. And so it's hard to break the cycle and break the system and break the norm of what's happening in that. So it's like, I want to be healthy, but I'd rather have my family, so I'll just be quiet. It's not easy.
Yeah, because we don't want to ask the question, at what cost? Because there's a cost to both of those. Are you fully you with your family? And over here, you can be over here, so it's like, what's the cost with everything? Because now, we're complacent. we're complacent in a lot of things. At least let's be excellent in certain things. So there's going to be a cost to that. But I actually never thought of how many people quit because of that. And I do know that it's a lot of pressure.
You just want acceptance. Or I got a buddy, she married into, he's Korean, he married into a Mexican family. And so he was like working on getting healthier, and they were at like this big family event. And if you know Mexican culture, it's just like food and love, and it's just more, you know. And he like, her brothers were like, oh, you're going to have a salad again today, Bart? You're going to have a salad? He's like, so I ate the tacos, you know, I want them to like me. And, you know, but you said something really powerful. It's like, you're not going to fully be yourself. So it's that whole concept of like turning your light down in order to satisfy someone else. And yet we make that, you're like, I'm not doing that for that ex-boyfriend. I'm getting out of this relationship, right? Mm-hmm. But we do it for our family all the time. Why? Right?
I think there's obligation, there's guilt, there's
Given by who? Is that infrastructure? Were we born into it? Where does that come from?
Well, a couple of things, because culturally it's different, right? White family, Latino family, Asian family, black family. We all have different, Middle Eastern, like different ties to it, right? And I think a lot of family people have, you know, when I was in finance, they're like, I'm not going to save for retirement. My kid will take care of me. I'm like, you're going to put that much stress on your children, their marriage, their future, their everything. That could lead them to financial insolvency, divorce, and all that. So it's like we're constantly trying to put it on somebody else. And sometimes there's also this guilt. We're like, well, you owe it to your mom or you owe it to your dad. I'm like, I didn't choose to be here. Y'all chose to have sex and make me.
Yeah.
And I appeared. So why do I have a permanent guilt, permanent shame, and permanent obligation? And especially if your family's toxic, especially if you've grown and rolled far from the tree. And there's a point where you need to break the cycle. So I start looking at it that way, because it's not the obligation, but it's like, I'm going to be a better human. My kids are going to be better. We got to generationally change somewhere, put the stake in the sand and move forward. Because if not, we're going to continue carrying all those patterns.
So do you think that's why we're here?
Yeah.
Why do we get born into these earth suits?
Well, if we talk about the medium that was on before.
Listen, I am so deep into that. I gotta finish the episode.
So I've had different people, and I asked him a certain question, but some people believe in reincarnation, right? We're souls that keep coming back. And sometimes how I rationalize this is because I think you meet someone, they're like, they're an old, wise soul, so they've been here several times. Mm-hmm. And our whole goal is to never come back. You've gotten to the point where you've hit nirvana, whatever it is. You've graduated, and you go off to wherever this other thing is. Look, I believe in God, I believe in energies, I believe in all these things, but like, why can't that be true? In the sense or the essence of like, are we only trying to get better? And every time we get better, shouldn't we graduate? Shouldn't we move on? Shouldn't we go to another state?
So it's interesting. I have a similar belief system to you. And it's funny because what helped me shape this idea of we're coming back to work on something came through a book. And I remember this was probably 10 years ago. I used to do group fitness classes is where I started all my fitness stuff. And she gave me this book and she goes, I think you're going to find this to be very familiar to you. And that's all she said. And the book is called Many Lives, Many Masters. Have you read it? I would love to send it to you and your wife. You will love this.
I'll take it.
And the headline is that you have this very well-educated, scientific-minded psychologist that usually does hypnotherapy and other routes of healing for people that have fears, anxiety, all of these kind of elements. And with one of his patients, and you hear this in the first 3 pages of the book, they uncover past lives. And everything he writes is recorded, and so it's just transcribed from these hypnotherapy sessions. And so it did feel familiar. And so I say it in context of wellness, because if you don't think there's something you're supposed to do here, it's hard to not think like it's a waste of time, or as your last guest, that this is hell, that here on earth is hell. Like what's it all for? What's the purpose? And it's like, I think we are supposed to come back and work on stuff. We learn faster here on earth than anywhere else. Like, this is the amount of interfaces we get, the amount of experiences and reactions and emotions and layers of just understanding. And it's kind of neat to reflect on myself as a 10-year-old, 20-year-old, 30-year-old. I mean, like, even in I would say up through about 30, oh man, even 34, I don't know. I don't know if I was awake yet. Maybe 35.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought I was the shit. I was like, I know everything. I understand everything and everyone. And I had so many things to work on, right? Practice on, and get curious about by way of ego, by way of purpose, by way of relationship. And I think so much of our life is you kind of born in this way, and then you armor up, and you're reactive and you're emotional, and then our life is, it's a sprint to get rid of the armor, get clear, and then pick up where you left off, and then see where you can take this ride. And all theory, I don't know, but once I figured that out, you know, wrinkles on my face, you know, cellulite on my ass, whether a guy liked me or not, whether I got a job or not, whether I had this blank amount of money or not, none of it mattered anymore. None of it was percolating in my mind because I know there was something different going on. And so I think having that ability to lay down all the things we're given when we come into this world, as far as what we're supposed to have, like you said, the rich people that can't walk to their pool chair, they did it, man. They did what they thought they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
Work hard, make the money, have all these things. Now what? Right? They can't spend it fast enough. Why are people, I mean, I've been to Africa so many times. Why are these orphans in Africa, in Malawi, happier than ever?
Yes.
So just grateful. And just like pumped to see you, listen to the same Akon song 15 times. They're just pumped. Yeah. They're happy to have you there. And they have nothing.
Nothing.
But they're a part of something. And that, I think, is the thing. And it's like, and also to be a part of something is to have something to offer, which is the other, if we're going to go really deep down this thing, is the other side of it. And have you ever heard the story of the stone soup?
No.
I'm so happy to do this. So there's a man that comes into a village. He's so hungry. And I might butcher this, but I'll do my best. He's so hungry, and he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have any money. And he's like, okay, I know what to do. And so he gets this like bucket of water, and he's like, goes up to a guy. He's like, hey man, what's up? I'm making stone soup, and I've got the stones, but if you want to add anything into it, anything you got, he's got, I got some carrots. Awesome. Carrots sound great with this stone stew. Guy cuts them up, puts it in the bucket. Great, great, great. Next person comes through. I've got a couple potatoes. Amazing. We'll get your potatoes in the stone soup. So he goes through the village. You can see where I'm going to go, and I'm fast forwarding to the end. But he gets carrots, he gets potatoes, he gets the celery root, he gets seasoning, and it's there, and everyone's enjoying it. Like, oh, thanks, man. You made this amazing stone soup. But the guy that made it knows that he didn't actually put anything into it. So he doesn't feel like he's deserving of it. And that he had to dupe people into giving into that experience. And that's, I think, how a lot of people feel, that I'm at the table. I know this. I know celebrities. I know the best looking people with the best bodies. I know people that have all the things, and they are stone. They are the guy with the stone soup. Because I didn't really do anything. I just borrowed everybody else's magic. And I think that people understanding what they offer is a big component of self-love, a big component of what stops you drinking wine every night, or soothing with food, or all of these habits that get us or into an unhealthy position in our bodies. Like, you cannot have one without the other. Even stress. I know people that are size 4, right, look beautiful, all have everything, and yet they're working like crazy. And they still don't feel happy. So there is no, listen, like, life can be simple and still be hard. So I think that this is a very simple process, but people's pathways all look very different, and only when they're ready. And so that's, I think, where our job is, as you and I are similar in that we impact people. You create these visual experiences for people to remind them something, to trigger something, to show them something about themselves, to help them emote something, right? There's so much that you have in just one art fixture for you. And I'm doing the same thing, but I'm just using workouts.
Yeah.
We're helping them experience themselves, their feelings, their own ideas through something we're putting in front of them. And sometimes it's up to their readiness and or willingness to do it. And that's okay too. Like I said, I had a great time in my 20s, and 30s, but like there's a lot I wasn't aware of or ready for it until later on,
Oh, I know. I went through some of those cycles.
Oh, I know.
But one of the things I'm hearing clearly through this line, and these are things we talk about with people, especially people showing up big in the world. And to reframe big, we don't mean like you're the president of the U.S. big. We're just saying showing up to impact humanities. Be in service to others.
Ugh.
Be in service to humans. If you say, what's my purpose? Just go serve someone. And that doesn't mean tie their shoes and, just go be in service. And I think that's what we get to. And if you're talking about that African tribe collective or humans as cavemen, we all were in service to the collective for a greater purpose.
Yeah.
And that's all based in love.
Yep.
And of course we're happy because that's all we need to do. Why are we unhappy? We're comparing to everything. We're looking at everyone else's grass and thinking it's greener than ours. And maybe it is in April, but not in June. So what's the moment we're in? And that's really what it comes down to.
It's like stop comparing and start doing. I mean, I run a challenge and one of I hit your water goal, but an act of service is one of the part of the point system. Like you cannot let the day end without doing something for someone. Period. And it's like, it's actually a great question. Where did we lose that? Did we get too busy? When did we start doing this?
I think if we want to, and I don't believe we're all just trying to survive, but I think a lot of us are just trying to survive. And when you're in survival mode, you're in fear mode. And when you're in all these modes, cortisol, all these things are spiking. So if we're just trying to survive, we're going to rush through the door instead of holding the door open for the other person. And I think that's where a lot of it gets lost.
So it's interesting. So if you seed survival with fear, that makes sense. But then what is fear? And to me, I always like finding, it's the Russian doll thing. What's inside? What's the thing behind the thing behind the thing? What is really at the root? To me, fear is a roadmap. Fear is great information. I love it when I feel scared or worried. I'm like, tap, tap. Okay. What's kicking up for you? Yeah. I just take a beat and I try to listen and I try to understand. And if I can't figure that out, at least I have an awareness around it and I'm greeting it versus stuffing it down.
So what you're talking about, and then we're talking about the natural, fear is a good thing. I'm not saying it's evil. It's living in fear. If we turn on the TV and only see wars and pandemics and obesity and all this, and we start believing that is the truth, that's what I mean by we're living in fear. And we start reacting and we think that that's our reality and we forget that love is there. But the fear in the sense of you're listening to your intuition saying, hey, what's happening here? That to me isn't true fear. You're just trying to see, there's a little bit on my radar. I should pay attention to something. You know what?
Here's the thing. I said a sentence in my head as you were talking. I'm like, yeah, but fear is always going to draw, fear and chaos is always going to make more news than love does. And then I thought, I don't know, man. Love's kicking ass. I think about Jay Shetty's page. I really think he's phoning it in. Sorry, Jay. I don't know you personally. But he just takes cute things from the internet and reposts them and gets all of these views. And I'm like, I should have just done that and grown my Instagram. Yeah. But I was like, but what he is promoting is love. People are they go to his page to smile, to experience love, to see people coming together. And so I just wonder if what stops more people from posting that over why does the news, why is it 90% negative and we've got a 2-minute feel-good story at the end with this cute couple in Indianapolis. You're like, wait, what? Shouldn't? And is it preying on people's fear? Is it preying on people's pain? Is it media dollars? I mean, I'm this close to a flip phone. I bought one. By the way, I got the Mint Mobile plan. Thank you, Ryan Reynolds. I was like, okay, $15 a month. I'm like, I just got to swap out.
Yeah.
I want out. But also I do think that our lives we are in a technical age, and we're not going further into it. We're sprinting into it now with AI and everything. But I was like, you can do an audit on your social. You can do an audit in your household. You can do an audit on what you're sitting yourself in front of. You can do an audit on what news stations you're listening to. Like I do BBC. I'm like, I don't need someone's opinion in this country. I need to know what's happening. I need a third party telling me what's going on. And I have found that has been a far less
triggering
and less, what is the word? Like,
the agenda behind
yeah,
it.
there's no agenda. They're giving me the facts. This is what happened. This is what was happening. This is happening. It feels more just information based than emotion triggering, agenda based. Yeah.
I mean, what's the money, greed, power, control?
But over what? All those people do is want to feel good about themselves. That's what's weird.
Well, you're saying, why do we tune into a lot of that stuff?
Yeah.
From my experience and just talking and having conversations, humans love to commiserate. And they also say, well, my life's better than yours because I see it on TV as that, and that's not me. So I think we can start making ourselves feel better. And that's one of the things, because we may not have the tools to make ourselves feel better.
Well, you know what's so funny, though? I really think this is why, going back to like CrossFit, it's why it took off. There's nothing that Glassman did that was new. There's a saying in like the sports and the strength and conditioning world, as you have generations of trainers and practitioners that have been doing this forever, you'll get in a conversation, you'll be talking about something, you'll have a name, and they'll be like, show me what you're talking about, and I'll tell you what we used to call it. Right? It just generationally, themes come up. In art, things come up. In poetry, in film, in writing, in books. We regenerate. It's all great, and it's all inspired by... we're all feeding from the Awa tree, right? Like we all plugged in, man. So it's shared IP. But I just wonder. I got to Awa and then I lost my. I was made fun of people that lose track of their thoughts.
It's CrossFit.
CrossFit. Oh, thank God bless you. That's what Glassman did right. He put this structure of fitness that existed forever into a community aspect that allowed people to find that like-minded, hardworking, kind of like get through fear and hard workouts together thing. Because like, no offense, Orange Theory, nothing pushes you like CrossFit.
No.
And I remember my first CrossFit experience. I'm coming off of I was a competitive gymnast for over 10 years. So I'm like, yeah, that's a kip. Everyone's like, muscle up. So I'm like, it's a kip. It's not a big deal.
Like, that's just how you start.
And everyone's like, okay, the barbell is like 115 pounds. I'm like, I used to snatch 200 pounds. Like, and you want me to power clean it? Oh my God, this is so stupid. Mm-hmm. My first workout, you're going to giggle. It was 5 rounds of 10 power cleans at 95, 135, and 10 burpees. 10, 10, 5 rounds. Go. I was like, this is such a waste of my time, but I'll come. I do a round, so I go 10, 10. Then I do 10 on the barbells, and I'm like, oh, this is feeling weird. And then I lay down to do a burpee, and I just don't get up.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, and I put my face on the ground, and I was like, and they're like, get up. And I was like, I don't know if I can. And it was just this really wild awakening for me because it was a part of my engine that I'd never worked and never had to because I was meant as a hammer thrower in college. Be sharp, be fast, be powerful. So no elongated training, no elongated heart rate stuff. So by the way, a 6-minute workout was long in that instance. And I remember when I would go to my CrossFit gym, if there was running or burpees on the WOD for the day, I would get I'd be like, oh, I'm just getting a protein bar. And I would leave. I was like, oh, I'm not doing the noon. I just didn't want to eat out for lunch. And then my class, my teammate, these are people that are like, have regular jobs, teachers, like firemen, whatever. And they're just like, we are on to you. You're not leaving. You're obviously in gym gear, but I was a trainer, so I was like covering it up. And they got me through it. And they would make sure I wouldn't stop on the runs. They sacrificed their workouts and their times to keep me going. I had support. I had honesty. I had accountability. I had people that gave a shit. I had a circle of friends. It's like, hey, it's like Jason's wife's birthday. We're all going to go to, Laurel Tavern. You want to go? I'm like, I'd love to. You know what I mean? I don't, LA's a big city, man. Like, and I have a lot of people. And so what Greg did is like, yeah, you were going to work out over here, right? That's the carrot that he brought you in with, weight loss. But what he gave you was this infrastructure of community, that tribal thing you talked about in Africa.
That's why it works so well. Yeah.
That's why it worked. And so to me, I haven't seen anyone else really do it better. And that makes me sad about like CrossFit's kind of had some turbulence in the last 4 to 5 years, but like as far as like what it is and people unaffiliating and reaffiliating or whatever. But I was like, that's it. Because there are gyms everywhere that do workouts. Why was CrossFit different? It's because people faced real pain. I faced real pain, real insecurity, real self-doubt, and the ego, the crushing of like, I'm big shit, I'm too good for this. And I was so humbled and still loved for being last one in the room on those runs. And those people I am still friends with 10 years later. I know their kids. You know what I mean? Like there's something that happens when you walk someone through what felt like crisis, and everyone's like, oh, it's just CrossFit. I'm like, no, you have no idea. Like, I did CrossFit to become a better person. I did CrossFit to be stronger. We still opened up talking about a workout today. I was like, don't cut the quarters, Jen. Do it the long way. Do it the hard way. And prove to yourself, like, I'm going to build pride in myself today by those choices. So, and CrossFit gave you a chance to do that every day, to say, who am I today?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I just wonder, where can we involve people in those kind of exercises, not to be punny, but those personal exercises of like, I want to see who I am today, and I want to rise. I want to step up to that bench that I know I belong at.
There's a couple of things. One other reason why CrossFit is so good. I started CrossFit in 2008, so I'm like way
Oh
back
my
in the day.
God.
Yeah,
that's great. You probably made it to the games.
I have. I've competed regionally.
Oh,
we had a team that went.
Yeah, but what years?
2009 we had a team.
Awesome.
Then at
Was that like in a parking lot?
The brick team qualified a couple years.
Yep.
And I did regionals almost until 2015 or 16.
Oh, you were. Did I compete with you? I did team. I'm someone that needs rest in CrossFit, so I will totally kick ass as long as like I go, and then I'm like, take it.
I think I die even more for a team because I'm gonna hold them back. Let me go even harder. Than individually, because I played track too. I ran track.
What was your event?
400, 4x4, 4x1.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, but that's the beauty of team. I'll quit on myself, but I won't quit on you. So, okay, so keep going. So you did a lot of competing.
Yeah. So SoCal, we were all over the place, and I've seen it grow. We've been at Aromas for the OG. It was good. But the other thing, yes, there's that community, there's that thing. And I just remember when I first started, people were like, oh, you're like in that CrossFit cult. Like, like I was so long ago. It's like, what are you doing? What is this thing?
Yeah.
And then it broke mainstream and it kind of got past that. But I will always say there's some people that still go way too extreme. I'm not the extreme ones.
No.
They have all the knee pads, everything. They just have everything on. But I digress. Let me get on track. The other thing that they do good, functional fitness, obviously, intensity. They got all the science down. Community's huge because lonely people go and have friends now. Unfit people, fit people, all kinds of people. But competing. Men will die for points. Humans love to compete. Ex-athletes, ex-high school players, ex-college players, ex-pro athletes. They're like, where do I go compete now? So CrossFit also brought the competitive edge.
True.
So we can train into that.
You know, I did this little challenge in my app, and I call it the 40 and a 40, and it's kind of like my 7-day 5 hard, but it's like a lot more very different point system. That's what I'm saying. Like there's acts of service, there's journals, there's a protein minimum, but people are like, I love the points. And everyone's like, and then we have a gal we call her the Auckland assassin. She's in New Zealand. So she's in tomorrow. So people wake up and they're like, how many points did Nikita get? And Nikita is at 13. Like she was crushing. And so Emma's like, all right, bar is set. And like the 13 is the highest points you can get for the day. Mm-hmm. And what she did single-handedly for my whole community, I was like, do you know what you did? She's like, I just needed those points. I'm like, yeah, but because of that, everybody wanted to compete with her. And it was such a healthy, positive thing. And until we finished like a week ago, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's it. They wanted to compete, even if it was in a positive way. Yeah, and it's, when it's true, when it's not about ego and not trying to be first, they're just like, I'm here to compete, and I'm competing with my peers at whatever level you're at, right? Yeah. So, yeah. And to me, it's like, I'm competing myself. How did I do yesterday? How am I doing today? Moving forward. But it's also training that, because sometimes we weren't built that way, right? We weren't trained that way. We weren't raised that way. So people get to learn how to compete. The non-athlete in high school, all of a sudden is like, oh, I can compete a little bit. Like they never thought themselves as the jock or the whatever the case is. Well, isn't that, maybe that is a part of that self-love issue, is that people, it's not about just seeing who they really are. It's about what they tell themselves they're not. Mm-hmm. Because if you continue to tell yourself what you're not, that's exactly what you are. I got to tell you, that's why I ran a mile and a half today, because I'm like, I'm not a good runner. I'm not a good runner. I make fun of myself. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I had a dog that passed away, but Hank, I had a profile page for him. He had like more followers than me. And his slogan was, I'm not a runner. Because he was so slow. And that was me. I'm like, I'm not a runner. I'm like, well, that's why you're not a good runner, Jen. Like, change that. Change that idea about yourself. And I think that it's the story that you tell the most. It's like when you say things a lot, you start to believe it more. And when you believe something more, you see it more. And but that could be for good or for bad. Whatever those thoughts are you're investing in is what you will see come into order, or what you will manifest. Yeah. We could think about, let's simple it down to operating system. Everything you tell yourself, you continue writing that code. Then that code becomes the programming. Then that programming runs your life and you become autopilot. So you're actually no longer even saying the things because it's just there. And it's so hard to break that, recode it, reprogram it, and start over. And I think that's what gets me, though. Here's an interesting case study. I have a woman in my group. She's in her 50s. She's a teacher, really, really great lady. Did a lot of privates with her. She's like, I don't know what's going wrong. I just can't lose this weight. I'm never going to lose the weight. And I go, well, let me just walk you through. Let's walk through your day. And I go, how many of the workouts that I programmed a week are you doing? She's like, 1 or 0. I was like, okay. So we're 0 working out, 0 steps, 0 of that. And then I'm like, what's your food like? And then she was barely eating during the day. Then she was backloading her calories. She was having wine at the dog park, and I was like, I have an idea of why you're struggling to lose weight, sweetheart. And she still was like, oh, this is just so hard. I don't know what's wrong in the group. And then there's a group of women now, they all meet really early in the morning and they do the workout. They have our own Zoom setup. It's completely separate from me, but they do the workouts. And this person gets up really early and does them. And now she's lost like 40 pounds, and she's in Wonderland is what we call it, one something. And she's like, yeah, it turns out working out and not drinking every day was a big help. Ha, 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 ha. But and so I goof with her, but I'm like, no, I told you that 6 months ago. But she, in that despair, was like, but I don't get what I'm doing wrong. And I'm like, but we talked about it. So what interests me, psychologically speaking, is like, why do people stay in the place that they know isn't working? It's easy. It's comfortable. She's miserable, though. I know. That's the thing, though. It's a double-edged. I am very comfortable here. I know what is to expect. I wake up. This is my life. I am not changing anything. And over here, you have this narrative I hate this. I'm unhappy. I'm miserable. Yeah. But it's not loud enough to make a difference. And then usually, why is it that you
you almost die, right? If they said, you know what, you're about to die, your artery's going to pop, then people make the change because now it's life and death. But if we could somehow say, hey, you know what, if you continue, it's actually life and death.
It
and
is.
This might not be the thing that kills you, but something else is over here that's going to do it.
You know, it's interesting because I realized I couldn't make a difference for her, but joining the group did. That accountability, again, it goes back to the social health, did it for her. I've had contestants and loser. Some keep their weight off, some gain it all back and more. And I have one contestant that has continued to be readmitted to the hospital for heart failure. And the amount of times he's crying the phone to me, I'm like, I got you. I will pay for this. I will send you protein. I will show up at your fucking door. And he's like, okay, Jen, coach, I'm in. I'm ready. And he gets out of the hospital and he's not responding to me anymore. And I'm like, wait a second. You were in ICU. You made this commitment to me. But once they're out of that boiling water, they're like, oh, I feel like I can handle this now. Never mind, Jen. I'm okay. And that's where I get worried and where I get mostly sad for the people that desperately need the change and just aren't ready for it.
Yeah, it's just whatever.
Because he's been in that ICU room 3 times now.
And for some reason, he thinks that's easier than other. And if we could figure that one out, that's a whole other thing. And a lot of things, right?
You know, it's funny. Part of it is the pathway to success for any goal that you want. You've got to be able to have desire for it. And then we know that we need to believe it. And a lot of people talk in belief, because the want is the easy part. The belief is where people get stuck. They can't see themselves doing it. But a lot of people have those two things. And then the third part is acceptance. And the hard part with accepting that goal is he would also have to accept the lifestyle that comes with it.
And the truth of what he is in the moment.
Boom. Bingo. The truth of it. And people accepting the truth is, I think, where they get stuck. And that's, by the way, not an easy concept. I feel like a kid with remedial tools in a sandbox trying to figure out that one. I'm like, okay, all right, universe, I think I'm starting to wrap my head around that one. And so people are afraid of success, except people that I hear it so much from people I work with, they're afraid of what happens when I get there. What then?
Find out.
Yeah, and that's why I said, I'm like, you got to be curiosity, discovery. And it sounds silly, but I make people, and the challenge, I make them roast a chicken. I'm like, that scares the shit out of me, man. Roasting, I've tried twice. One was so overcooked, it was like the Griswold's turkey. And then one, it was raw, and everybody was hungry. And I was like, you have to do it because it's a way for you to practice courage. And I think sometimes people jumping, it's almost like someone that's never ran before and they're like, I'm going to do a marathon, is the I look at this psychological jump. Don't run a marathon. Start small. Start with, start with a chicken. Don't start with overhauling your whole life, but start with things that allow you to practice courage. Like just going to a public gym. Whoa. Going to a group class, double whoa. And having these little, I call them discovery projects, but go see what you find out. And by the way, notice how you're going to be fine. You're going to have fun. You're actually going to you know what I mean? You're going to learn these things that you wouldn't have known, wouldn't have seen. And that's the funnest part about it is when you, life happens when you leave the house. And so they get to experience that, but what their fear is unfounded, ungrounded, and is this weird thing over here that actually there is speculation.
Yeah, we've made it up.
Yeah.
Humans are meaning-making machines.
Yeah, and so it's almost making them do it disproves whatever they thought could have been there, even though they have no thought at all. Does that make sense?
Yes, and the thing you said prior to that, let's just say I needed to lose 100 pounds. I'm like, you know what? In 30 days, I'm going to lose 100 pounds. We make unrealistic, unattainable goals that set us up to failure straight out the gate. And sometimes I think, is that happening just because we don't want to succeed? So let's make this goal ridiculously ridiculously
Keep
unattainable.
it all the way over there.
And I'm all for hairy, audacious goals. Like, I have a lot of goals, but there's a lot of goals in between that. But it's just you have that one goal. And with fitness, let's just call it what it is. In 30 days, you're going to see nothing. You're going to be in pain. You'll probably put on some weight, actually. You're going to be a little inflamed. You added a little muscle. There's more fluid in your muscles. You're like, I am 10 pounds heavier. What happened? Stay the course. No, that's when they freak out, even if they get there. The next 30 days, okay, I'm feeling better. I'm a little stronger. I can move more. Maybe you're back to your starting weight.
I know.
Maybe.
Yeah, but we're trained to be immediate.
I know.
I want food. I'm ordering right now from Postmates.
Go to 90 days, though.
Yeah.
But how do we make sure we hit 90 days? And this isn't anything. We're just using fitness right now. But go to 90 days and look at your before and after and take that photo, and you're just like, oh.
Here's my pushback. Not pushback. Here's my next layer to that, though. Gosh, I hope your audience likes this conversation because I'm loving it, by the way. The people that do it for 90 days, the people that do it for 6 months, why do they revert, in your opinion?
What is your why? It all comes down to your why. And did you fall in love with the process? Did you fall in love with who you're becoming? Is your goal and vision set on this next evolution of you? If you're doing it to get a girlfriend, get a boyfriend, get the job, go on a trip, I need to lose 20 pounds for my wedding, yay, then that's a whole nother animal. And of course, you're not going to stick to it. So we revert back because if we didn't have a why and a passion and a mission and a vision behind it, it doesn't matter. You're doing it for the wrong reasons.
You know, and it's really interesting because I don't know that there are some that do, but there are a lot of fitness professionals that really don't understand that pain. And I think I'm included in that because I have always had a magazine cover to be ready for, a show to be ready for. Like, I have built in peer pressure because of who I am and the career I've taken. So is it hard for me to do this as it is for one of my best friends in Chicago who's got 3 kids under 5 and a full-time job? No one's looking at her in a bikini on the cover of Women's Health.
No, and what they're saying to you, it's your job. You get paid for this. No wonder you're going to do it.
Well, yeah, but
right?
also peer pressure. I will push away from dessert. No problem if I've got a thought. You know what I mean? It's skimpy. And I haven't had to work that muscle because someone's always watching me. And that's why it's like, I don't think the credit is placed where it's due because we have to look like this to sell shit. We have to look like this to be an authority. It's different for people that are civilians that are just trying to connect the dots. And at the end of the day, all they have left is food and alcohol to soothe. It's really hard. And so I almost feel like it's unfair because I was like, just do this, just do this. There's a girl, I respect her so much. And she shows her birth transformation story, like from when she was pregnant, 2 months after, 3 months after, 2 years after she's finally, she's back. I'm like, yeah, but you don't have a job. Sorry. I'm not impressed. Like my mother was, I'm trying to think. She had my sister, I was 5, my sister was 6. She was 40 years old, 8 months pregnant with my brother. Full-time job, downtown Chicago, at Proviso East High School, doing night class at Northern Illinois. And if anybody knows Chicago, that's a stretch. My father, also full-time, had to start driving her to and from night classes because she was too big to fit behind the wheel. She took her, like she had to take her finals early because she was going to give birth. I'm like, yeah, I can't imagine that. I am so not as hardcore as my mom. And I don't have, I'm her exact age now when she had my brother. And I'm like, how the fuck did she do that?
Yeah.
That's real. And you have to manage the kids and the relationships and the work. And I just think let's find a solution for that life. Because the things that we're offering in the internet are for people that don't actually have jobs. I don't want to say that don't have jobs. I know we're working, I know we're caring, but it's not the same. I have so much time on my hands. So it's like, am I an authority on this? I don't know. I think you should talk to my mom instead.
Yeah,
So,
how does that woman stay fit?
Yeah.
And then
how did she do it? You know what I mean? How did they make it work? How did and how did it work with my father? Like their relationship, the steadiness of the relationship was a big part of their mutual success, right? So, I mean, my dad, he would go, I have to just give him a shout out. Like he would sit in class. He's like, I'm not driving and driving back and driving and driving. He would just sit and look, you know what I mean? So it's like, are we having the same kind of support?
And we couldn't watch, Netflix on our phones back then, right?
Oh, no. My dad he's like, I just sat in the back of the classroom and see if I can remember, But this is 1987.
Are we soft? We're getting
As fuck.
softer as humans.
Soft as fuck. We're raising weak people.
Mm-hmm.
Weak people. And, it's more than just the participation ribbon at softball games and track. It's more than that. Like, because it's talked about in sports. Like, no, there should be winners, there should be losers. It's what gets kids excited. And every state and city does it differently. But I was working at 14. I didn't have a license. That's my parents, but like we were raised in a different system where strength didn't have a gender. We all had to work at the garden plot. We all had to work the field. My parents still at 75 and 78 are growing their own vegetables. I see my parents, my dad is limping and I go, what's up with you? She's the one with the knee replacement. What happened? He's got a brace on. He's like, I had to pull 200 pounds of sweet potatoes. I go, this was literally 2 weeks ago or a couple of weeks ago. I go, what are you talking about? Why did you plant so many potatoes? He's like, they just grew. We got one the size of a cantaloupe. And he's like, that's just the sweet potatoes. And so they're out there working hard because that's who they are and that's who they raised in all of us. And I think I'm an alien with most people, but it's also why at this point in my life, you can find your people easier. When you let your values come out clearly, when you say who you are and you live who you are, your people can find you. And that's why I'm sitting with you today. Blessings to Dr. Jason for introducing us and Amanda. It was her birthday party that I got to meet you guys. And I'm just like, of course they're here. Because like Amanda and Jason are hard workers, honest people with integrity. Of course I'd see you guys sitting there and of course, you know what I mean? So like, that's the cool thing about doing it all. But I don't know. I don't think I'm worried about this generation coming up, but I think our generation who's raising now will bring that pendulum back. Because I think it's going to be raised with different core beliefs.
I agree. I agree with a lot of it. And I think I don't even want to get into everyone's offending everyone and we're all walking on eggshells.
That's okay. You can't offend me.
I actually can't. You have to choose to be offended.
That's right.
That's where a lot of people give away
I
their
can
agency
react,
and their power.
I can absorb or I can observe. Go ahead.
Yeah. But no, it all comes down to like, what are we doing? What are we doing to make everyone better? What are we doing to make ourselves better? In many cases, I always say be selfish, be strategically selfish in the sense of health, wellness, mental health, self-love, because that's how you're going to show up better for people around you.
Yeah.
But I think many of us are so selfish and so self-absorbed in the completely wrong things that we're not filling up the good cups in the right way. So then we have these one-sided situations going on and we're energy depleted and we're exhausted and we're this and we're trying to find shortcuts in participation trophies or in, even adding more and more labels in the name of inclusivity. I think we're creating more divisiveness,
I agree.
And I think if we just come down to you're human, I'm a human.
I am you and you are we. We are, this is it.
That's why it's love, fear, and everything falls under that. I'm just trying to simplify it all instead of overcomplicating it because it's very complicated out there.
I think it's coming down to people are fighting for identity because they want to feel something. They want to feel special. They want to feel seen and heard. And that's why that's happening. So I do understand the humanity of that. I really do. It's the human condition, and yet celebrating our differences can come through acknowledging that we are the same, because we all are this and we all it can be different at the same time. Literally scientifically speaking, your DNA, There is no other you. So however you want to label that, you're just you. By the way, your parents labeled you Ruben. That's just like your name this time.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My cousins they're both non-binary, can't talk. And they were very, 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 they're junior high school age, and they were very determined to like not have a label. It's like, I don't want to be labeled. And I go, well, I'm a woman because physiologically I have female parts. So that's a classification of my anatomy. That's it. I'm like, my friend's 4-year-old is sure that I'm a dude. They think, Jackson thinks I'm a guy.
Yeah.
And their parents are like, but Miss Jen has long eyelashes and long hair. Why do you think she's a boy? He's like, I just do. You know, I have masculine energy. So if he thinks I'm a boy, that's okay. You want to call me Jen? You can. You want to call me Frank? That's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they were like, well, I don't want this label. I go, but by being non-binary, you've given yourself another label.
That is a label.
You've just given yourself more. And they were really great. They showed me this chart of like where the colors, the pink to the blue and everything in between. And they were showing me what each box meant and the name for each box. And I was like, it just sounds like another label, guys. And yet I respect their it's a journey of understanding, and they're trying to figure that out. And so I respect that and love that about them. And I learned so much from them. But it's just more labels when I'm like, can't we all just? I literally think my cells are the same as your cells. You know what I mean? If you really get deep into like quantum physics and you get into,
let's go all the way to atoms. It's all
you go into
carbon and atoms, and yeah,
it's wild. I've gone to some recent museums and like watched their space things and like where we are in the universe. And you're like, we're just atoms. It's like your atoms just stack differently than mine, but so does everybody's. So does your son. So does your daughter on the way. Like they're all going to be different. Yeah. It's the coolest thing. So anyway, I hope I didn't make this podcast bad. I'm just going on and on. But there's
a lesson in this.
There's
right? Here's
there's
the thing.
Yeah.
This is what I've been saying a lot, trying to look. We don't have to understand everything. We don't have to understand everyone. There's a lot of things I cannot wrap my head around. But I think it is a duty as a human, and coming from love, that we do have to accept everyone. You know, there's an outlier, sociopath, killers, murderers. Okay, for the people that would be like, what about those people? Take those off the table. For the majority, the 99% of humans that are humans, let's just accept them for being human. Do I need to understand you? I don't. Is it going to affect my life if you are saying this or saying that or whatever, and it's just your belief? No, but I accept that you want love and you're seeking love, and let's go from there.
Is there anywhere else to go? No. Great. Good lesson.
Yeah.
But even the bad ones, they just want love.
Of course, and they fell off a path somewhere, but
yeah.
I'm just throwing them off to validate the...
I know. I have a heart for people that get stuck in tailspin, and you know, love did get lost along the way, and I think that's why going back, I don't know, when you said it about service. I mean, I feel like truly, plants are different when I've walked past them. Like the feeling that we have in our space is very real, and just doing. It's not about being a giving person or a selfish person, but living in service of the collective is where love is born out of. And it is like, there are people that have been there for me that I'll never see again. I don't even know their names, and they're a big part of who I am and why I am here today. And I think that knowing that if we make love the connective tissue, that everything's going to rise. And it's proven that that's the case.
Yeah.
So.
Facts.
All
right, as we wind this down, couple last questions, because this will be off the record, just so you know, January 2024 episode. So, couple of additional questions. You're in the health and wellness space. You've been on The Biggest Loser. You've done all these things. January, new year, new me. It's a whole thing. I've talked about New Year's resolutions in the past. But what are a couple quick things that people could do? Whether it's about the goal of getting fitter, because that's what happens in the new year. That's mostly everyone is what they're thinking about. It's on the media. But what in your expertise and your years of doing this are like 3 things to help us maintain that goal, push it through, and actually stick with it?
So whatever your goal is, whether it's in movement or in nutrition or in a different habit, I have 2 things that save me over and over. And I've been doing this and I teach this and I still use these 2 things. And I'll give you a bonus third if we got time. So one is the 3-day rule. Do not let 3 days go by without doing your promise. So if that's movement, and it's like day 1 goes by, it's been crazy. Day 2 goes by, oh my God, I'm sick, I don't feel well. Day 3, I don't care if it's 9 p.m., you got to go walk around the block. You got to set a clock for 5 minutes and just do air squats. You have to move. Or if it's something with nutrition, like the 3rd day becomes 3 weeks, becomes 3 months. Don't let 3 days go by before executing the goal at least once. And you'll be shocked of what you'll start to build and the power of your word and your promise. And then the next day, you'll do that thing right away. Your body replicates really well, but we got to give it something to replicate in your mind, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, let yourself off the hook. So what I mean by that is like, if I want to go work out and I'm like, oh, I just don't have the energy today. I'm not going to be able to 100%. I'm just going to skip it. The amount of times I've gone to the gym with like 10% desire and 8% energy, I'm like, I'm just going to go as slow as I need to go. And I will go lighter and maybe I'll walk on some of the runs or whatever it is. I let myself off the hook. I always outperform what I felt going in. Again, with nutrition, if you're like, I'm having vegetables every meal, fine. Don't eat all your vegetables. If you have 1 dang carrot, it counts.
Yeah.
So let yourself off the hook and just keep it in range. People judge an outcome that hasn't happened. So let yourself off the hook. And then my 3rd one is you have to make your own rules for success. So, and that only comes with learning about who you are and your personality type. So I know for me, and I learned this a long time ago, if I go out to dinner on an empty stomach and I have if I start having cocktails, it is a runaway train. I will eat I will eat the whole pizza and your pizza and the leftover mozzarella sticks. Nothing will stop me. So I had to start figuring out rules around my eating in this example. So I kind of set guardrails for my success. So the 2 rules I made up for myself is I never go to a dinner hungry. I always have to have like a boiled egg, a handful of algae, an apple, something. And I'm also only allowed to have 1 cocktail before dinner is served. I have to limit myself to 1 because if Jenny gets more than 1, it's like, hey, everything's fine, right? I start to cruise. Yeah. So, and I overeat and then I get mad at myself.
How many did we have at Jason and Amanda's
19.
birthday?
You and I were like, yep. But so that's the thing. But I know anytime I've broken those rules, I go off the deep end.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, if I keep those 2. So observe yourself in situations around your goal. What are the rules that you know if you step your foot on that place, it's a slippery slope? Okay, so you know that you make that one of your, just find your own guardrails. Don't look what other people are doing, find yours. That's what I would say.
That's it. And you keep it simple.
Yeah, very much so.
I like those. Those are really great. And the other thing I will add to that when you're listening is, and the reason I hate New Year's resolutions is because we create these goals that are impossible, and then by the time February comes, we let it go, and then next year we go and do it all over again. I say, hey, look back at the goals you set. Take inventory of what you actually did. If you wanted to lose 100 pounds but you lost 10, celebrate that you lost 10 and say, hey, you know what, this year, let's do 30. Or try to do the 100 again, but continue to build off of the goal. But I like that. Set your rules for success and let yourself off the hook.
Such a good one. I can't tell you how much that works for me.
And what was the first one again?
3-day rule.
3-day rule.
It's a really good one.
Rule.
especially for parents with little ones. You're just gassed. You're like, you can't keep your eyelids open. Like certain days, like your days aren't your own. And just do it. Like if you do 5 minutes of push-ups, you'll be worked.
Yeah.
Just, and it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like it sounds silly, just that. And it will connect you to movement.
Yeah. The off the hook one is great because trust me, there's days where I do not want to go to the gym. I go because that's my discipline. Today's a gym day. I'm going to go. But also those days where I'm like, I feel like I'm going to phone it in, work with the body you have that day.
Totally.
But some of those days are the greatest workouts of my life.
You bet. And you would have missed that had you stayed back. And plus, again, it builds the wrong habit muscle. Like, I don't want you practice quitting. I want you to practice going and proving to yourself what's available when it's there.
Yeah, just showing up could be the biggest win of the whole thing.
Another great example, I always laugh with this, like people, I think it's not all relationships, but sex starts to go by the wayside when you've been with someone for a while. And sex gets a little like a chore, like, okay, we haven't done this, we should get it in. Nobody regrets having sex once they've had it. Yeah. They're like, why don't we should do this more? This was a lot of fun today. It's like, it's like, you have to treat it like sex. It is always worth the effort, regardless of what you walk into it with.
There we go.
It's the truth, man. And by the way, that counts as activity, 3-day rule.
Heart rate up.
Get it in, build your relationship.
There you go. Counts as a workout, ladies and gentlemen.
Sure does.
Final question.
Yep.
So, Jen, how do you define living a life through love?
Oh, man. Living a life through love. The first word that popped into my head was consideration. Consideration of others, consideration of self. You have to be inclusive of not just the shiny good parts. Embracing all that each moment, each person and yourself has, and being considerate of those layers. It's just, it is done with so much love. And the power of that is when you start to do that and be so considerate of those pieces in yourself, you are going to be able to see other people so much more clearly. And that's where the love can be unspoken and bonds you to other people without even having to bridge it. So I think consideration.
No, that's a great answer.
Thank you. Yeah.
You know, because I see a lot of us can struggle with compassion and empathy, right? And rationalizing it. What's this feel like? But we know what consideration is and what being considerate is. Yeah, it's different. It's a non-emotional. That's the thing. We get stuck, and emotions drive our decisions, and emotions drive the action. And it's like, well, you have to just change. The way I like to say is, like, you have to just change your environment of your mind a little bit. And imagine taking a really hot shower with the door closed, and you go to the mirror and you kind of wipe it clean, but it kind of immediately refogs up. And you wipe it again and it refogs up. But if you just crack that door just a touch and the seam starts to seep out, you can see clearly. And that's what I'm saying. These mindset changes, these are not big leaps. Going from compassion to consideration, it's very minor. Compassion means I accept this and I approve. Consideration just says I'm willing to see. Right? So see. That's it. Yeah, and it softens it.
Absolutely. And that's the whole point, because then you can see yourself and that person in a totally different light.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for
being
you, for taking us all over the place.
I tell you, I was like, we went deep.
Yeah.
Oh, so fun though. Thank you for having me.
No, of course. It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
And where can the audience find you?
It's just my name, Jen Widerstrom. I'm sure it's in the show notes. It's my website. It's my social media. That's it. Jen Widerstrom.
Check her out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Live Through Love. If you love this episode, you'll love this episode.